Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. I'd like to thank you for coming to today's webinar on BIM Manager Suite, which is a suite of tools by CTC. We're going to be covering how we could fix your current libraries with a tool that's called the Family Processor. So my name is Patrick Simic. I'm a technical consultant at SolidCAD, and I've been using Revit for many, many years. And today I'm going to be showing you a couple add-in tools from CTC, from the BIM Manager Suite, which is the Family Processor, which could help you automate and speed up the consistency and workflows of your current Revit libraries. So today's learning objectives, what we're going to be covering is how can we access the Family Processor, the interface overview of the Family Processor tool, and we're actually going to be updating some family content within the demo today. So why use the Family Processor? So within your current libraries that you may have, as you download content, as you create content, and you're putting that content into many different types of projects, you want to keep that consistency of the data. So all the parametric data, all the changes that you're creating inside of your families, or trying to get something that you've downloaded so it matches and works properly inside of your projects themselves, the Family Processor can help you with this. So some of the tools or some of the options that this Family Processor can do is you can process one or more changes to a family. So if you want to input multiple shared parameters, that is your standard, you can do that. If you want to make multiple changes, like change parameters from a company's or a manufacturer's parameter, but to one that works with your own specific schedules inside your project, you could also do that. You could define one or more families to change. So instead of just processing one family at a time, which again, if you have a large library, will take a long time, you can actually select multiple families at once and do those specific processes to all those families. So again, speeding up the process and keeping your current libraries up to date and consistent. You could add shared and family parameters. With those shared and family parameters, you could define them as instance or type, what group they belong in. You want a value already inputted within those parameters, or a formula. And all those other kind of information that you can input to the parameters can also be done. You can change existing parameters. So with existing ones that are from a family already, you could change the values or formulas. Is it a type or an instance? What group does it lay under? So you do have the ability to start also changing existing parameters that are from that specific content itself. So with that said, let's already just jump into the demo. So from here, the example that I'm going to be using today is going to be from the architectural side, where we're going to see a door schedule that I have inside of my project. And as we load in different content from a different library, we will see that it does not work with my specific project parameters. We're going to see the Family Processor, how we could utilize that to process the specific family itself, so we have a working family and data being processed inside of our project. So as I kind of just jump to my door schedule as I have here, zoom into here. So before we jump to the actual schedule onto the sheet, here we can see there's already a few different types of doors inside of my project. You have the specific door types, the location of the door, you have the door size, door material, door type, frame material, frame type, and some hardware information. So this is already built up content that I have inside of my project that works well. As I start modifying the information, that will get updated throughout my project. If you were to download new content, or if you had new content that you built, but you do not have the proper parameters or shared parameters working consistently with your specific project. I'm going to do an example here as I just load in a out-of-the-box Revit family. Since we're using doors, going to go to my doors location. With my door now being loaded, I'm going to select open here. Going to load in a few types of these doors. So again, this could be used for any type of content, any type of category that you have within your projects. As my new doors are then loaded, I'm going to place a few of them into my project. So we have this first size, and I will take that second one along. So with our now doors in place, if I were to go back to my schedule, so I'm going to go back to now my schedule. So in the project browser, I'm going to go to the door schedule, opening up the door schedule here. Here we can now see the populated doors that I previously had, or the new doors that I've just brought in. Since I do have a door type parameter here, it is actually the type mark. It is the built-in parameter. So Revit already knows the sequence that it is kind of working with, bringing it through and just numbering it, having it inside of my schedule. But as I look at the other parametric values, so we do see height, we see width, we see thickness. That again is another built-in parameter that is inside of the door families or door categories that do get populated. But as I kind of look a little bit closer, where I start to see location as an example, from the families that I've built or that I've had placed before, I can input that data and start modifying it. If I click those new doors that I've just placed, we can see I cannot modify that data. As I move down the line, here we can see other types of data that I cannot input. So we have the door type, door material, door finish. We have frame type, frame material, and frame finish. Inside my project, I like to use my own shared parameters as opposed to just the built-in ones in Revit. Some of them are going to be used built-in, like the width, height, and thickness, and along with the type mark. But then the other ones, for the door material finish, door type, or the frame material finish and frame type, I like to use my own shared parameters. So as I load in different types of families, I want to make sure that I have the ability to actually modify that data as needed. Let it be if it's a new piece of content that I built, or if I've downloaded it from the internet. Also, if it is outdated content that I have in my library and I need to update it to newer, say, standardization that I have within my projects, I would also like to have that happen within my project itself. So one of the things that we're going to want to do here is actually use the tool now, Family Processor. So where the Family Processor tool is going to be found is once you download the BIM Manager Suite from CTC. Let me just click the BIM Manager Suite here. It's got the bar here at the top that doesn't want to hide for me. I have to just move it down for a second. We got the CTC tools, and I'm just going to put onto my screen the BIM Manager Suite. So as you download the BIM Manager Suite from CTC tools, here we can see the ones in blue. We do have some paid tools, which are the darker blue colors. There are also some free tools that you could use once you download the tools themselves. We're going to be diving into the Family Processor. So some of these tools, like the Family Processor, you actually have to be inside the actual family that you are going to be modifying, or just having a default family template open. So one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to click one of those existing doors that I've placed with no data inside of it, and I'm going to view it and highlight it inside my model. So there is that door that I actually just loaded in, and I'm going to edit the family. So within the family editor, I am now going to run the Family Processor tool. So as I come into here, BIM Manager Suite, we got our Family Processor tool. And here we have now the interface of the tool itself. So there are a lot of settings that we could set to have modified the families that we are working with. So starting from the top with our different tabs, we have family level processing. So with these ones, as you can see, some of the different changes that we can do to the family. So you could set the Omni class, some types of family settings you could do. So when you open the family editor, as we could kind of see in the background, as I have here in the properties, those are some of the changes that I could help process the family to have within my changes. As we kind of look at the other ones, you could add a keynote file, some auditing features that can be done within this view. Down the road, as we look at the different tabs, lookup tables. So if you are on the MAP side, or again on the architectural or structural, utilizing lookup tables, so you could have them deleting lookup tables or importing lookup tables to the family content that you are using. Changing materials, so on my door right here that I'm using, I could start modifying some of the materials that are being used. I could add some materials, delete materials, change any materials that are within the project, or sorry, within the family also. What I'm looking for to do here is I'm actually looking for to add additional parameters. So we do have a tab, change parameters. As I click into here, we have different options of parameter changes. You can delete any parameters that are part of your family. We could add shared parameters, which is the one I am looking for. Since my schedule had my own customized shared parameters, I want this door to have the ability to be modified and have the data being inputted to the door and properly showing onto my schedule. So with a shared parameter file that I already have loaded in here at the top, I'm going to select the parameters that are part of my doors that I want to have. We can filter this out simply by just clicking some of these drop downs here, and I can start to see all of the different door parameters that I would like to use. I'm going to highlight all of these door parameters. I'm going to bring them all in besides the location one. So as I select the shared parameters from my shared parameter file, I'm going to apply it to the bottom half of the screen. So again, I'm adding it to what I want to be processed within this specific family. Once I drop these parameters down to the bottom, here we have the naming conventions. I can now make it an instance or a type parameter. So again, you have the ability to select either or of the parameters at an instance or a type parameter. All of the parameters that I've been using in my schedule, they are type parameters specifically for that door schedule. It's going to tell you what type of parameter it is. Here you can enter the value, already a preset value, or a formula that goes within that parameter itself. Also, as I move a little bit further, you could add it to a group. So when you click the family and these parameters are then processed to that family, when I click the drop down, you have the different areas where you could then assign where that parameter will fall under. So I have it just as text parameters for my specific door schedule. You could have different parameter types. You could have material types, you could have length types, any type of parameter that you have created, you could then have it processed as a whole to this family. Other ways of adding parameters to your families or modifying them, we are in the adding of shared parameters. You could add specific family parameters that are being used within your project environment. You could replace any shared parameters. So if you have an existing shared parameter within your family, but now you have a new updated standardization, maybe a naming convention of how that new shared parameter is being used or its location or the type, here we have the ability to swap out an existing parameter to one of your new shared parameters that are being used. And again, for this one, it's going to use the same units for changing the shared parameter. So if I look at the location suite and I click the drop down, we have, again, different text values here. These are all text overrides, which is why I see them here. If it was a length parameter or if it was a material parameter, you'll then see the specific unit type show within this drop down. And the last one over here, you have parameters to change. So again, you can change the parameters of the existing family that you are using. Once you have all these different values set, let it be from the family level processing, lookup tables, changing of materials, changing of parameters, which I have the adding of the shared parameters, you have the processing order. So from here, we can see we can start changing how we want the tool, the family processor, to run through the families that we have and apply those changes. You have the ability to move up and down how you want the process to be. You could also check on and off which ones you want. So in my case, I'm only adding shared parameters, so I'm going to click the check mark that I have over here to the add shared parameters. Other ones I'm not modifying over here, so I'm just going to leave them as is. Once you have the processing set, you can now select what family you like to process. As mentioned before, you can change one or more parameter types within the family, as we saw before on the different tabs. But to process now a group of families or an individual one, here we have the ability to select the current family that I've opened, which is the door that I want to work properly in my project, or multiple family types. So wherever you have the location of your family libraries, let it be all the doors in my example here, you can select all of those family libraries, add them, to where you want them, or add the doors that you want that process with that specific value. And then you could also save it to certain and specific locations. Just for this specific webinar, I'm going to use the current family that I am working with. Once I have the current family selected, I am then going to begin the process. So I select begin process. It tells me in order what I am going to be processing. I only have the shared parameters portion, with the shared parameters being shown that are going to be applied to this door. If you had other options, deleting materials, adding materials, deleting shared parameters, changing the family level processing, it'll show you the sequence of what will be happening. Once we have it now shown what's going to be happening to my family, I'm going to click continue. And in a matter of seconds here, we should see now the log that comes after once you process the families. Let it be if you're doing one family, in my case that I have here, or a batch family option. Here you can see it already tells you if there are any errors, what is successful, what did not work. So you will get a log from here, which you could save and use as a trial and error if there are different processes that you're doing inside of the tool itself. So with my updated now family in place, I'm going to close out of this tool. Going to click yes, I want to have those changes applied to the family that is open right now in the back. I'm going to click save from here. And once I have the family saved, I'm going to load it back into my project. I'm going to load into my project, override the existing versions. And with this family, as I select the family that I created type parameters. So with the new door that I've loaded in and applied the processing from the family processor, when I click edit type, at the very bottom, we should see underneath the group other, there we have all of our values that I have been applied from the shared parameter, from the family processor tool. So as these have been processed inside of here, if I go back to the actual schedule itself now, go back to my door schedule, we should have the ability to start changing the different parameters now for those specific families that I brought in that were not properly behaving previously before the processing of the family or processing of the shared parameters to the actual family. So here we can start to see we could add the different values. It is a type parameter, so it's giving me some options here. So I can start now applying my different parameters, and we have a fully working family that we took originally, applied some shared parameters that are going to be that I use inside of my project. Once I ran the family processor and applied those shared parameters, we now have a fully functioning door with the correct data fields available for me to use for my specific project. So with the demo that we have here, I'm just going to go back to my other screen. So in conclusion, using the family processor allows for modifying multiple Revit family changes individually or on a batch level. Also, the family processor will help keep consistent with parametric data within your family library, but also within your projects. So as new projects are coming through, making sure your family libraries are all up to date with the proper working data that you use within the projects. Let it be your shared parameter files have to be embedded or applied to specific families. Family processor is a great way to utilize to get that consistency. Also, with the family processor, if there are specific family types or there's specific family projects or just processes that you're doing, you can actually save setting processes for your content. So if you do have different types of workflows for different types of content that you're using, different parameters that you need on specific category of families, you could save those settings and then use that later on for certain processing features down the road. So once again, I'd like to thank you for coming to today's webinar. My name is Patrick Siemek from SolidCAD, technical consultant. My email is patrick.siemek@solidcad.ca. If you have any kind of questions or comments after this webinar, please feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to help you out with any of the questions you may have. So with that, just going to give a few moments here for anyone that may have a question for today's webinar session. So I'll be looking at the Q&A that we have open here. If there are any kind of questions, please let me know and I could get those answers. Just going to give a few moments here for anyone to provide some questions. So question we have here is, can you show to change existing shared parameter in a family? So to kind of just come to that, if I just share my screen here. Yeah, so with the family processor, what we will have is, as I open up, again, I could use the door as the example. Family processor, oh, not in the family itself. Family processor. With the tool here, if I go to changing of the parameters, so right now, I'm going to use the example of one of the parameters I had was called location suite. And if I go to replace with shared parameter, the door that I have being used right now, there is the parameter being used, parameter that's part of the family is called location suite. If I wanted to change this, which is again a shared parameter in that family, to a new parameter, so as you can see, replace with shared parameter, I would just come into the field over here. If it is the same unit, so location suite is a text parameter. So if I were to click the drop down here from my shared parameter file, as I click drop down, it is going to show all of the other text parameters available for me to select. Since it's the text, it's the same unit, I can swap it out for it. So if I click location here, so I'm going to go from location suite, change it to be location. I'm going to come to my processing. So I'm going to go to my processing order, which I have the replace with a shared parameter. That's what I was using. Yep. Replace with the shared parameter. Going to come back here, current family that I was using. Run that process. Successfully updated. So as we can see, the parameter location suite was successfully replaced with the shared parameter location. Family update complete. I go back to my now project as I load it in. There's a door that I was using. Once I click my door, if I go to my type parameters, which I had previously had before, edit type. As I scroll down, there is that now new location parameter. Previously, it was called location suite. This time around, I just swapped it out from location suite to be location. You could do that again for any type of shared parameter that has the same type of units. That was the question that was there to show how do you change an existing shared parameter in a family to a new parameter type. Just using the family processor, you have the change. It was the change shared parameter. Thank you for that question. So as we have no more questions here for today, once again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out to today's webinar. My name is Patrick Simic, technical consultant at SolidCAD, but feel free to reach out to me at patrick.simic@solidcad.ca. This webinar will also be posted on our SolidCAD YouTube channel, so you can review it there or share it to anyone else that you have. And once again, thank you for coming out for today, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you.